800-764-2179. That's 800-764-2179.
Not all applicants qualify for a loan or rate savings. Actual offer terms, including APR, are determined at the time of your application based on creditworthiness, value of the vehicle, loan term, and other factors.
Stay top of mind with your customers, stand out from the competition, and drive productivity with a podcast for your business from Epic STL Podcasts. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. In California today,
they all have to kind of pitch in together because if they don't, the companies will start doing rolling blackouts through the neighborhoods just to make sure that they don't overload the circuit.
National Weather Service meteorologist Adam Rourke in Southern California says there's a hot dome of high pressure sitting over the region,
bringing very above normal temperatures to all of Southern California. Today is actually going to be the coolest day of the next three, but we're still looking at high temperatures in the 100s to 110 degree range.
The state energy officials say the electrical load this afternoon could top 51,000 megawatts. That's the highest demand the state has ever seen. Also at townhall.com, the U.S. Southeast and much of the Northeast trying to dry out after heavy rainfall. Among the hardest hit areas in this weekend's storms was northwest Georgia, where 12 inches of rain fell in some spots. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp on Sunday declared a state of emergency in Chattanooga and Floyd counties. Liz Truss is the new British Prime Minister after being appointed by the Queen at Balmoral Castle in Scotland.
Truss has become Britain's new PM, replacing Boris Johnson in the post. The former Foreign Secretary immediately needs to confront a major task ahead, curbing soaring prices. She'll also need to ease labour unrest and fix a healthcare system burdened by long waiting lists and staff shortages. Another top-of-the-box item is the energy crisis triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The conflict threatens to push energy bills to unaffordable levels, shutter businesses, and leave the nation's poorest people shivering in icy homes this winter. Charles de Ledesma, London.
On Wall Street, the Dow is down 192 points, the NASDAQ off 88. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Charlie Dombeck here from Key City Capital. As a practicing CPA for nearly 30 years, I have found that 80% of your ability to grow your wealth is dependent upon two factors: taxes and investment performance. At Key City Capital, we improve investment performance by diversifying capital into off-market investment opportunities in passive rental real estate and alternatives like asset-backed lending. We recover dollars that clients unnecessarily pay in the form of income taxes, creating a lifetime annuity of savings. We are a sponsor of passive, affordable single and multifamily residential rental investments, which are located in Sunbelt landlord-friendly states. These investments are the top choices in a rising interest rate and inflationary environment. They represent a store of value, protecting your capital from market volatility. Learn how we at Key City Capital can help you ultimately grow your wealth rapidly. Connect with me at keycitycapital.com or give me a call at 817-912-1569.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasevich. Another fraternity brother is being sued for a hazing incident at Mizzou that left a 19-year-old man in a wheelchair, blind and unable to speak. The victim's lawyer said the fraternity member is responsible for not calling 911 or administering CPR and instead carried him off the couch and dropped him on his head. A 31-year-old St. Louis man was found not guilty of fatally stabbing a 55-year-old Fenton man with a samurai sword in 2018 because of mental illness. Police said after the stabbing, the man stole the victim's phone and car and tried to flee to Mexico. A man was struck and killed early Monday morning in St. Clair County on I-64. Police say the man's Acura hydroplaned and struck a guardrail. After exiting the car, he was struck by a pickup truck and died later at the hospital. OSHA is investigating after a worker was killed at Century Castings Corporation in Swansea, Illinois, Friday morning. The Swansea Police Department said a 59-year-old man was crushed by hydraulic machinery at approximately 6 a.m. Several workers and Swansea officers used a large pry to lift the hydraulic machine off of the victim. The St. Louis Symphony Orchestra will perform fan favorites on September 14th at its annual free Forest Park concert. Attendees can pack a picnic and enjoy orchestral music, hits from film scores, and more, and then fireworks will decorate the night sky to cap off the event. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to newstalkstl.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
We might see a spot shower or two this afternoon or this evening as skies remain mainly cloudy. About 82 degrees is all we'll get for the high temperature. Light northeasterly wind, still a little muggy. That humidity starts to go down a little bit tomorrow afternoon after a morning low in the upper 60s. The high tomorrow about 84, becoming partly cloudy. And again, lower humidity late Wednesday into Thursday. I'm KMOV Channel 4 First Alert meteorologist Kent Gerhardt.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. Tony Colombo.
Libertarianism.
On News Talk STL. Welcome back after what hopefully for everyone was a long, fun, drama-free, news-free weekend.
I hope the same.
How was yours?
It was great. I put up the Halloween decorations.
All
Judge
right,
me if you want to.
Here we go.
Go ahead and judge me,
no,
people.
You're fine. It's September. I'm September. All good.
Yesterday was like spooky weather, overcast, kind of rainy, not super, super hot. It was the day. It was the day to do it. And it took forever and I accomplished it. And it was a great feeling. And so now at the Fitzpatrick's household, we might be the first on the block.
Yeah.
We might be the first on the block to have the Halloween decorations
You just reminded me to check the temperature. I made a bet with Maggie like 2 weeks ago. We've talked about how Maggie, my daughter, has been in fall mode for like 2 weeks. Like she loves fall. So it was her birthday over the weekend.
Yay!
Yep, her birthday was
Happy
on
birthday, Maggie.
Saturday or whatever day the 3rd was. Was that Saturday or Friday?
Yes.
3rd. Saturday was the 3rd.
Yeah.
Saturday was the 3rd. That was her birthday. And so she kind of like her birthday's always either on or right around Labor Day weekend. So she always gets like this long, holiday weekend right around her birthday.
The best.
And I think, like this is her like season and like fall is just kind of her jam. So she wanted to start like decorating her room and part of the house, like fall/Halloween. And I made a bet with her. I didn't make a bet with her, but I made a deal with her that the first day, and it can go back to 95 the next day, but the first day that we have a high below 75, she can go crazy. And she showed me her phone yesterday. And today's high was supposed to be 75. But I told her it has to be under.
It can't be. It has to be under 75.
74.9
is fine.
And so she shows it to me and she's like, look, it's supposed to be, she's like, do I? And I was like, no, we already went over this. It has to be below. So she's like, I'm watching. I'm checking to see if it makes it.
Good girl.
But it is. I just looked at 78. So she lost.
Oh, it's 78
Yeah,
outside? Holy moly.
She lost. I think there's
but
another
it was
day.
her birthday weekend.
I think
Come
there's
on,
another day or
Tony.
two coming up. Yeah. So we're real close to going full blown fall. I don't know. Did you see the tweet I put? I made over the weekend. Her birthday tweet.
I don't think I did.
She's in her pumpkin.
Oh my
head
gosh.
to toe pumpkin pajamas. She's ready to go.
Oh, I see it. Gosh, those are great pajamas.
She is ready to go.
You know what? I don't blame her. It was overcast the entire weekend. It was rainy. I understand it was high 70s, even reaching 80s at some point.
But I'm okay with it being fall. I'm okay. It's September now. I'm okay.
We're good
with everybody going into fall mode.
I'm there, brother. I'm right there with Maggie.
It was a crazy weekend for us, but luckily we did get away.
Did you rest a little bit?
No,
Because
I wouldn't use the word rest.
So here's the crazy part. Here is my mind is always blown because I'm this way. Labor Day is for the people that labor the 365 days a year that are working their bums off. And yet, every single Labor Day, I think people work more on that Monday we have off than they have the entirety of the year.
Yeah.
It's like the day off happens and we're all supposed to like chill and relax, myself included. And I end up doing so much stuff. I end up doing like all of the honeydew, like the honeydew list. I do all Dave and I are fixing things.
That's what we did.
There is no chill.
Yeah. No, that's exactly
Why
what
is
we
it?
did. I don't know. I guess because we don't get very many of those days to do that.
That's
very many extra days to do that stuff. So that's definitely what we did. But I hope everybody enjoyed their weekend. There's certainly lots to talk about today, and we will get into all of the important conversations and headlines. We are going to, in a few minutes, talk to James Knowles. Of course, he is the former mayor of Ferguson. He currently works for the city of Dardenne Prairie, and he will be joining us. Mayor Knowles worked in the county, obviously, for years, being the mayor of Ferguson, with Sam Page as part of the whole county government structure. And I wanted to have him on to talk about the situation happening with the St. Louis County executive position. And now they're not being a Republican in that role. And, what does that mean for the Republican Party in St. Louis County? And James is obviously still he's a resident still in North County. And he and I both, of course, North County guys for most of our lives. And so this is important to us. It's important to, the hundreds of thousands of people that live in St. Louis County. So wanted to have James on because I think he will bring an interesting perspective and insight and sort of behind the scenes insight of what's happening now and what's going to happen as the Republican Party in St. Louis County tries to find this person to run against Sam Page. What a mess.
Debacle.
What a mess.
I will say on a personal front, and this is just my opinion, yes, we are in a debacle right now because of what happened with Pinner dropping out, but there were some simple things that could have happened that she did not seem equipped to handle. And if you are not equipped to handle those simple things, I don't necessarily know if you should be the person that should be running to handle the difficult things.
Don't run if you're not prepared to win.
If you're not prepared, it's not fair to the voters. It's not fair to the voters to just put somebody up there.
Right.
They should be worthy of it. They should be prepared. They should know what's going on.
And they should have a legitimate choice in November.
Yes.
They should have two legitimate choices. They should have Sam Page, the Democrat nominee, the current county executive, and they should have a legitimate second choice.
Yes.
And right now that doesn't exist. So we'll talk to James about that and a few other things happening around the area in a few moments. Just want to dive right into the headlines of the day. There's lots going on. Lot happened today. A lot of breaking news today and a little bit yesterday as well. I guess we weren't the only ones that just took the weekend off and then jumped right back into work today because it feels like there's lots of stuff happening. One of those being, this one actually broke yesterday. A federal judge has granted former President Donald Trump's request to appoint a special master to review materials that the FBI seized from his Mar-a-Lago home. District Judge Aline Cannon ordered that a third-party attorney from outside the government be brought in to review the materials that were taken from Trump's home and resort in Florida. The order also halts the Justice Department from continuing its review of the materials seized from Mar-a-Lago, pending completion of the special master's review or a further court order. The classification review and intelligence assessments being conducted by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, however, will be allowed to continue. Both sides have until Friday to nominate special master candidates and their specific duties. So now we will have a special master, and Trump's team is going to pick a person that they think should be the special master. The DOJ, the government will pick somebody they think should be the special master, and they will present those to the judge on Friday, and the judge will have to decide who will be the special master. So that will be the next step. In this saga. There will be a special master. There'll be a ruling on who that will be this coming Friday, and then that special master will take over. This also, as I mentioned, this order stops the DOJ's investigation immediately.
Oh,
they are
man.
to stop looking
The criminal investigation.
Yeah, they have to stop looking at the stuff that they took from Mar-a-Lago.
Great. I think this
Your
is
eyes
a great
off,
step.
You're done with that until the special master completes their investigation, or the court changes its mind or releases a new order saying it's okay to start looking again. But they have to stop. So
I think that's
interesting.
great.
The as I mentioned, the other investigation, the classification review, of the documents being conducted by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, that is allowed to go on, but the DOJ's, the government's investigation into the materials has to stop until the special master's done.
I think that this is the natural progression of things. I am happy that they're going to have an independent special master that they decide on to look over everything. I think I'm more happy that everything has to just stop in its place, stop in its tracks, so that we're not moving at two different trajectories of one person looking at this and reevaluating, and then the DOJ somehow still trying to look for something to pin on Trump. I think that we need to focus on one thing, and that is finding out what the heck went down.
Right.
Let's focus on that first before we try to pin Trump on some criminal investigation action or whatever the case may be.
Why was this step taken?
Yeah.
Why was a raid the proper way to go? What were you looking for? What did you, because there's been the reports that they had reason to believe that there were classified documents, or reason to believe that there were documents that were sensitive to national defense. But what was the reason to believe? What exactly was your reason to believe? How valid was it? How real was it?
And I think those questions that you just asked, I'm not expecting 100% of those questions to be answered.
That's
but
the special master's job to answer, to figure out from the DOJ
what's what.
What information did you have that made you determine that raiding a former president's home was the proper action?
I guess I should have said, I don't know what we're going to be open to.
I'm not. I think a lot of people think that will be. I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, and what's open to the public or not?
That's what they're supposed to do.
Will if you get the answers, will we be able to see it? Will it be anything in our purview? But
good point.
What's my main concern is getting some of those questions, the most important questions, answered, and then moving forward from that step, because it seems like that's a key. That's the key step before we move on to start accusations and trials and figuring out investigations.
So along with fall being here, I think the vaccine talk, schools, I think it's all going to go into full steam ahead. And I think we're back. Into like vaccine talk, vaccine debates.
Just because the kids are back in school?
Because it's fall. Yes. Because we're going into flu season. And today, big headline out of the White House. White House announced today that Americans need yearly shots to protect against COVID-19.
Okay.
So I think this is
the thing.
I think this is the beginning of all of this.
The conversation.
This is just my feeling. This is just me. This is just my spidey senses going off saying the White House, waits till the day after Labor Day to make a big announcement about vaccines,
Mhm.
and it's going to be the
This
first
is
step in whatever.
because this is really the kickoff of the school year. I mean,
Yeah,
now it's like
and the
there's
kickoff
no
of
more
fall,
breaks.
the
Yeah.
kickoff of fall,
The
which is
season.
also flu season,
Right.
going into flu season and all of that. So I think they wait till the day after Labor Day, make their first announcement, and I think it's going to be the beginning of many. So today, the White House said Americans aged 12 and up are eligible to get their first updated COVID-19 shots now, and these probably won't be their last. Going forward, Americans may need to get a single annual COVID-19 shot every year, White House health officials said today, making clear the country will be living with the coronavirus for the foreseeable future. Dr. Ashish Jha, the leader of the White House COVID-19 response team, announced today, quote, "This week marks an important shift in our fight against the virus. It marks our ability to make COVID vaccines a more routine part of our lives as we continue to drive down serious illness and deaths and protect Americans heading into the fall and winter." Jha urged Americans aged 12 and above to take advantage of the updated boosters, stressing that it was the first time the country has had vaccines that match the currently circulating variants. He also said people should get their flu shots at the same time as they get their COVID-19 vaccines. So you should get your flu shot and your COVID-19 vaccine at the same time, according to the White House.
They've always promoted that, right? They've always promoted.
I think out of convenience, like they've said.
Just
yeah,
get her done.
Yeah. Dr. Jha said in this announcement today, quote, "I really believe this is why God gave us two arms, one for the flu shot and one for the COVID shot."
Come on.
I mean, he was
joking.
Joking.
But
He wasn't joking. He wants you to get in both arms with the whole God, he was having fun with it. But yeah,
it's a tee-hee.
I really believe this is why God gave us two arms, one for the flu shot, one for the COVID shot. What do you think?
What's
going to be the react? You think people are going to go along with this, or do you think people are going to?
I don't think for this age group they will. I don't think for elementary or middle school kids, they will start doing COVID yearly shots. I think for adults like myself and for you and for people in that age range, we'll probably start they'll be pushing those yearly COVID shots, which I'm okay with taking. I'm fine with doing that. But I think because we have found out so much more research about these age groups and they're not really being that vulnerable to the COVID virus, I couldn't see parents going along with it, a majority of parents going along with it without having the ample evidence that they would need to say kids are continuously contracting COVID and it's pretty severe. I do, now that you've read this, believe that the conversation is going to start to be pushed.
I think this is step one.
Oh yeah, I think the conversation of pushing, and then we'll probably get back into masking somehow, that if you're not getting the yearly COVID vaccine, you should be masking. The most not hilarious, but that's the only word I can think of, part about all of this is, didn't Biden campaign on ending the virus? And now we've just accepted. I never thought he would.
Anywhere.
I
Yeah.
never thought he would, because it's a virus and you cannot campaign on ending that.
Right. He never thought he would either.
But-
But it's a great line.
He and the administration, and even when he got into office, said
We
they
will
would
end the
end this virus. We are going to end the virus. And now
His White House is saying the virus is here to stay.
it's here, baby.
Get your shot.
Yep. Come on.
Flu shot and COVID shot, same time every year.
We're not ending it. It's actually going to be here. It's like, yeah, no duh. Why did you campaign? Why did you do that then?
When is the next time you guys are going to have Dr. Tobler on with Tim and Chris?
Thursday.
Because I take a lot of stock in Dr. Tobler's opinion.
I do
ask
too.
him a lot of. He's a great resource for all of our listeners.
Unbiased.
He's a great resource for me personally, and he is one that when I have questions about vaccines and should I get them? Should my kids get them? I take a lot of stock in what Dr. Tobler says. And so I am looking forward to his reaction
Mhm.
to this. Does he believe that everybody, just across the board, 12 and up, as the White House said today, and the CDC director, Walensky, echoed these thoughts today as well. So the White House, the COVID-19 task force, and the CDC have both said that this is their advice. This is their instruction, their advice going forward, that everybody, all Americans 12 and above, should get an annual COVID booster at the same time you get your flu shot.
I cannot get over the COVID czar. That's why God made two arms, one for the vaccine and one for the flu.
I really believe this is why God gave us two arms, one for the flu shot and one for the COVID shot.
I bet he really in his head was like, zing!
Yeah,
I got him.
That's a good one.
I got him. You're right. Give me a break.
Is it a killer? Is it a killer virus that the left has said and that we need, or is it something that we joke about? Like, if it's
is it serious or not serious?
If it's a killer virus, do we joke? Is it okay to make jokes?
Yeah.
If it's not like, you know what I mean? Like the messaging is so
really weird,
all over the place.
Is it casual or is it not casual?
Exactly. Is it is it like the flu, which is, or is it not like the flu? Is it like this bigger monster? So anyway,
guess we'll see.
The White House wants you to get your booster whenever you get your flu shot, and do that going forward every year. And like I said, be listening when Dr. Tobler is on with Tim and Chris on Thursday afternoon. I know I will, because I would love to hear what Dr. Tobler's reaction and advice surrounding the vaccine is. All right, we got to take a quick break. James Knowles, the former mayor of Ferguson, joins us next. We are going to discuss the situation happening with the St. Louis County executive race. James, of course, knows the county infrastructure better than most, having worked with Sam Page as mayor of Ferguson there. So looking forward to getting his thoughts on this situation and more when we get back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. For you and your family, I highly recommend the Colombo family dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, for so many reasons. We've talked over the years about how they are basically a one-stop solution to all of your dental needs, no matter how complicated. They offer so many services and have embraced technology, and just have Dr. Boscia just has really embraced technology and can treat so many different services that used to be things that you'd have to make referrals for, make second and third appointments, and, take even more time out of your life. Now, many of those things can be taken care of in one visit to Dr. Boscia at New Creation Dental Care. And also the convenience, especially we're talking about kids going back to school. They offer early morning appointments as early as 7 a.m. They offer evening appointments as late as 6 p.m. So you don't have to pull your kids out of school. You don't have to mess with your work schedule in order to make sure that everybody is taking care of their dental health. Learn about all of those things, all those great services, and more at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Between 2 and 4 million.
It's a lot of people.
Working age Americans are not currently working due to long COVID. Put that story, though, up against the other story that we've been seeing about this quiet quitting phenomenon.
I saw that and I was like, man, is that new phenomenon? I've been doing that for decades.
Gradually
quietly quitting. It's like, yeah.
I'm not going to give it 100. I'm going to give it 80.
What's the big deal?
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30
on News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Tuesday, Chris, Katie, and I welcome you back from a long Labor Day weekend. We'll catch you up on everything you need to know, and we'll have David Stokes at 4:25 from the Show Me Institute.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Weekdays at 3:30
on News Talk STL.
Joining us now on the phone, back on the show, is the former mayor of Ferguson, current city manager of Dardenne. Mayor James Knowles is on with us. Is the city Dardenne or is the city Dardenne Prairie? I'm sorry, I'm still learning about all these things out west.
Dardenne.
Forgive
Prairie,
him, James.
Okay, very good. Yeah. All right. I said it right earlier and I said it wrong this time. All right, I got Dardenne Prairie. Got it.
I was out there like 2 or 3 days before they corrected me on it. So.
Oh yeah, you both are from the same area.
Oh yeah, North
it's
County, born and raised, baby. And I'm learning about St. Charles
Dardenne
County.
Prairie.
Right? Yeah.
Almost everybody out there is from North County at some point. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you're so very, very right. Of course, we've had Mayor Knowles on with us many times. For many different reasons, but I wanted to have you on today, James, because, well, for several things, but what's happening with the St. Louis County executive election is kind of unprecedented. This is a very weird situation we find ourselves in. It was a strange election night on primary election night. You have a candidate in Shamed Dogan that seems to have the name recognition and was the overwhelming sort of assumed person that would be the Republican nominee to take on Sam Page. And he loses to somebody who is virtually unknown in the political arena. And then that candidate decides this is not for her and drops out. And now we have the very important and very sensational office of county executive just because of what it's been through over the last several years with Sam Page. And there's no Republican candidate now for the voters of the county to even consider. And the party has to figure something out in 62 days or whatever it is. And having you being somebody who was mayor in St. Louis County for so long, had worked with Sam Page in that regard, I thought would be the perfect person to talk to. So that's what's happening. Are you as sort of just like amazed at the mess that has developed over the last week or so as I am?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the county exec race, and especially for the Republican nomination, has been for the last several years. The Republicans I know have worked really hard to try to find a decent, viable candidate. They've struggled. They've had some good candidates in the past that have come close. Rick Stream several years ago came within, I think, 1,000 votes or less of winning the office. But, most of the Republican candidates in the St. Louis County area, people like Eric Schmidt would be a perfect example of a St. Louis County Republican who's got high name ID, obviously wants to move up. None of them, they all passed on the county executive race. Now, Shamed Dogan was probably recently one of the more well-known ones that decided to throw their hat in the race. And there were some big backers behind him. But, when you come down to these primary races, you've got a subset of the electorate, in this case, just the Republican voters, who are going out. And with Shamed, you've got a candidate who has really bucked the whole party when it comes to, embracing Trump. He's been a harsh, outspoken critic of Donald Trump and, the MAGA movement. And I think it eventually blew up in his face during the primary. And so you've got this person who people voted for and was not ever really a serious candidate. I think this is a horrible outcome for the county, because when you start moving into this one party system where the only person who wins is the person who wins the Democratic primary, or I'd even say if it was just a Republican primary, if you don't have a real contest out there, an exchange of ideas, a debate on the issues, you're really just not getting the best representation or the best outcome in politics. I think we see that in the city of St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
Now we're seeing it in St. Louis County, and I mean that just goes to show you. Unfortunately, Republican voters, I think, cut off their nose to spite their face. Whatever they were mad at Shamed about, they now created a situation where we don't have any candidate, and Shamed can't. People have asked, like, well, they just appoint Shamed.
He's about the only one that can't.
Right. Yeah. Well,
he's like the only guy that can't be appointed by the Republican Party.
Exactly, and he's the only other one.
And he's the one that wants it. Yeah. I wanted a terrible
situation.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, James, about a Republican winning an election in St. Louis County. Like you just said, very much like the city. It's just sort of assumed at this point that if it's a countywide race or, in a citywide race, that the Democrat's going to win no matter who it is, because that's just the way people vote. You were a mayor and won every election. For people that may not know, the only reason that Mayor Knowles is not the mayor of Ferguson anymore is because you were term limited out. You didn't lose an election, and obviously Ferguson, while you were there, went through some incredibly tumultuous political national spotlight, tragic stuff, and yet you were able, and also a very would be assumed to be a very Democrat high, liberal high voting percentage area. You were able to win elections as a conservative in St. Louis County. Why can't the party? What is the reason why the party cannot seem to get over that hill as you were able to in Ferguson?
Well, in Ferguson, even though it was widely known I was a Republican, we don't have it on the ballot. I mean, it's not, conservative. It doesn't say Democrat, Republican. And even though I was involved and people knew, I think that makes a difference when it's actually on the ballot.
I think you're right.
Perceive it to be an issue.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, go back to what's going on in St. Louis County Council right now. You've got this coalition of Republicans and Democrats working together because the county, it's really not as much partisan as it is about the issues. And when I ran, it was always about the issues. And because we were able to have this campaign at this local level and this conversation without worrying about parties or council members lining up based on parties, it was all about ideas. It was all about making the case for office, making the case for whatever you wanted to do in the community or whatever was going on in the community, what direction we were going. We were focused on those sorts of things. And so when people went to the ballot box, I mean, I won against, African-American candidates, Democratic candidates, and I was obviously in a Democratic area, mostly primarily African-American community, because we got to talk about the things that were important for them, for the voters. And we didn't get caught up in some of these, really these issues that oftentimes are just national talking points. They're not really about what's going to affect the people at the local level.
So you were able to focus on the issues at hand and the things affecting the people of Ferguson and not get into political party.
It wasn't partisan.
Debates.
It was issue based, and that's what we really worked on. And I think now more than ever, St. Louis County needs to. They lost this opportunity a few years ago when we had the Charter Commission in St. Louis County, but they should have had a conversation about whether or not the county government should be partisan. There should also be a conversation about whether or not the county should have a professional administrator who's non-political and non-partisan, who's helping run this stuff day to day. I mean, for years now, we've just got political hacks getting appointed, and we've seen what's happened to all of them, to run county government, to run county offices, to run, departments. And, you wouldn't do that if you were running a multi-million-dollar company, which is what the county is. You wouldn't be hiring people just because whether they were, worked on some campaign or because they were some, connected political person. You would hire somebody because that's who's going to run your company most effectively and most efficiently. And I don't know that we've done that in a while.
James, I think this is a negative that we have this situation right now where nobody is running as a Republican against Sam Page. I think we can all attest to that being a negative, but there's also some kind of weird light at the end of the tunnel that I keep thinking about. And that is the average Republican in St. Louis County rejected Shamed Dogan because that wasn't the Republican that they were looking for. They also, I think, would have rejected Catherine Pinner. I don't think that someone that doesn't know the issues and doesn't really have ground to stand on when it comes to those issues, I don't think the average Republican that lives in the county would just elect her because she has an R next to her name. And so to me, when I see something like this, like, yes, now we're in this desperate race to try to find some representation to go against Sam Page and to run against Sam Page. But it also makes me look at the Republicans and reflect and say, well, it makes me happy that you're just not going to vote for someone because they have the R next to their name. Like, we do have standards. We do have protocol. We do want someone with confidence to run so that they could have the potential of winning. And I'm wondering if those values, if that is something that you've been looking at as well when it comes to the voter in St. Louis County.
I think you're right, except for, unfortunately, that we can't get the candidate.
Yeah.
Right. So the voter might know what they want, but the candidate feels that it's, this is a fool's errand at this point to go out there and run this partisan race. And I mean, I know that they're working hard. I know that there's, a lot of people high up in the party and in government right now working to try and find somebody. And that person still might exist. I don't know. But that person has to thread the needle really to make this work. And, what they have to be as a person, as a candidate, what they can bring to the table as far as uniting the county across partisan lines and get independent votes, and then probably be able to self-fund. So you're looking at somebody who is probably wealthy, somebody who's willing to spend the next, 8 weeks just hammering it home every day, and somebody who can walk up into North County and get votes, talk to blue-collar people, talk to African Americans, walk into South County, talk to blue-collar people. You've got to be able to do all of that because otherwise there's just not there's too many people on the other side, to Katie's point.
Yeah. And there's not a whole lot of those people out there that have the qualifications, the name recognition that in basically less than 60 days can put that together. We got a couple minutes left here with the former mayor of Ferguson, James Knowles. He's the current city manager on Dardine Prairie. I wanted to on the last point about this county executive race, just what is worse in your opinion? Because the whoever this is, the candidate that gets on the ballot has got a mountain to climb. The chances of whoever the Republican now at this point, because of this mess, they're already, in second place going into this thing. And now it's going to be even worse. Is what's worse, to just not run anybody and go, we're going to lose anyway? Because that just is a full give up. And that looks terrible. But also running somebody that is going to lose, that's kind of a bad situation too. Like, is there any bright spot in this for county Republicans, or is this just a full-blown disaster at this point?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what the party organization can do with the situation, right? And if they, or rather the party electorate, the Republican electorate, will make sure that they realize that having a party infrastructure or having a party organization is important. And for a lot of years now, you haven't seen as much focus on that, because so much of it's controlled by independent PACs and PACs that are affiliated with candidates. So, you know, in the old days before campaign finance reform, a lot of the campaign money had to flow through party committees and party organizations. There was power there. There was influence there. People took it seriously. You don't see that as much anymore with a lot of the central committee races and things of that nature. And they don't have the money. They don't have the umph to go out and do that, to go out and say, all right, you know, I have a connection with a Dave Spence or, you know, somebody that, you know, could self-fund a race and talk them into, or John Bruner, who's run statewide before, but, you know, again, somebody who's very talented, great profile as far as what he's done in his life and where he's come from, and then also could self-fund. You know, those, I don't know that we have that at the local level anymore. It's really being driven, I think, higher up. But hopefully they'll take this opportunity to realize we need to start talking more about issues, and we need to have those issues. We need to have a conversation about those issues aside from the conversation about party.
I think that's such a great point. I think that's such a great point. And I love that. And I think that, you know, you made such a great point about how you ran your elections, and, you know, you were able to have success as a conservative, as a Republican in North County, and win elections because you made it about the issues. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you this: aside from this county executive debacle, the voters in St. Louis County in general, we've seen across the country a backlash to the progressive left, and voters, you know, basically thinking that the Democratic Party has taken it too far. And, you know, people that maybe did vote Democrat 2 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it may be, are kind of regretting their votes and are back on the table for Republicans to win those votes back, or maybe win them for the first time. Do you believe that's happening in any large number in St. Louis County? Or do you think that St. Louis County is still, you know, what we've talked about, comparing it to St. Louis City, that it's unfortunately in this cycle of just like electing Democrat leadership and just doing the same thing over and over again, even though results are not there for you?
I mean, even though Jane Duker didn't win, I think the existence of Jane Duker as a candidate in this primary and the issues that she was pushing and advocating for, I think is a clear indication that the extreme left, the woke policies, all of that they're absolutely not what the majority of people want. I think the unfortunate reality is there are other issues that are also still going out there that get pinned on Republicans. You know, you could have a whole nother segment about that, but there's other issues that the Republicans have been involved in, issues with Trump in general, just issues of personality that you find. I think the backlash, you find people still sitting there going, well, I don't like woke policies, but I'm mad about Trump, or I'm mad about this, or mad about Roe versus Wade. And they honestly, I think people are getting pulled in all these different directions. They don't know. I don't think they're firmly saying, okay, I'll vote for a Republican because I'm tired of the woke left. I think there's a lot of people that would have been happy with Jane Duker because she is more moderate on those cases, at least in St. Louis County. You know, again, this is a different dynamic than St. Charles County. So I think that's again where we have the problem. If we were talking about issues in St. Louis County, you'd have a lot more people who are center or even center right. And unfortunately, Republicans as a whole are thinking and talking, even in St. Louis County, as if, you know, we're in a MAGA state. Well, we might be a MAGA state, but not a MAGA county. And so I think that's why they are underperforming where they could be in St. Louis compared to what they could be doing on the issues. Because, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of issues that Donald Trump, I mean, I think had wide appeal on. And I mean, if you go back to the issues, the policies, the things that were making us successful during that time, those were widely popular. It's all the other stuff that, you know, people are getting hung up on. And that's where I think Republicans are struggling. Got to get back to the issues, got to get personalities out of this. We need to talk about what makes America, what does make America great.
There you go.
You know?
Exactly. You need to do some consulting, Mayor. You need to do I think I think that is definitely and not only a winning strategy, but the right thing to do for the people of the county and for the people of wherever an election is being held. Focus on the issues and what's happening in that local area and how to improve the lives of those people and not get caught up in political parties in the letter next to somebody's name. That is the former mayor of Ferguson, James Knowles. James, always appreciate your time, my friend. Look forward to talking to you again very soon.
All right, thanks, Tony. Thanks, Katie.
You bet.
Thank you.
Mayor Knowles. Great stuff. Great insight from him. Really appreciate that time. All right, more stories to dive into. I told you at the beginning of the show there's a lot going on today. It seems like the whole news cycle was just kind of waiting for Labor Day to get over with and then just dump a whole bunch of stuff on us. There is new evidence, more evidence, further evidence of President Biden lying during the whole Hunter Biden laptop debacle. Brand new article out in the New York Post from Miranda Devine. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1.
Is the party of defund the police unprecedented even to be seen in affidavit? Total witch hunt, the Biden agenda. Student loan forgiveness. Try to buy votes.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Agers Heating and Air Conditioning is the place to call if you're having any issues with your air conditioner here at the end of summer, or if you are, when we get to that point, turning on your furnace for the first time. If you're experiencing any issues, call our friends at Agers Heating and Air Conditioning, because doing right by the customer is their number one priority. And that takes a lot of the worry and a lot of the fear, at least for me, out of, when something does go wrong, to know that somebody's got your back, that somebody's going to explain to you exactly what's going on so you understand the problem, present you with the issues or with the options to address that issue, so you have all that knowledge and you can make the right decision for you and for your family and for your family's budget. And that goes for repairs or replacement, whatever it may be. Agers is the place to call. Learn more on their website, callagers.com, AGERS, callagers.com.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, and southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Now is your chance to come and hear your Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, at the iconic Turkish Pavilion in Tower Grove Park.
Hi, this is Mary Teresa McClain, Chair of the Republican Party, City of St. Louis. Come and participate in the $5 raffle for a 10-ounce pure silver bar valued at $240 at our annual picnic on Sunday, September 11th. Proceeds support our city police.
Hear from 9 local candidates as they share their vision for a better future, all while enjoying free barbecue and meeting other Republicans. Visit stlouisrepublicans.com for more details. Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Further exposed President Biden in interviews and columns in the last about 24 hours, pointing to, quote, overwhelming evidence that the president was directly involved in his son Hunter Biden's business dealings. Devine pointed to testimony from one of Hunter's former associates, Tony Bobolinsky. Haven't got to say that name in a while. That's always fun. Who claimed the big guy mentioned in controversial emails surrounding the scandal is President Biden himself. Miranda Devine, in an interview today, said It's quite shocking. We already knew, thanks to the whistleblowers that have very courageously come forward to Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson, Republican senators. But what we now have found out, and what I've reported on in yesterday's paper, is that Timothy Theobald who is the disgraced FBI agent named by the whistleblowers as having suppressed the Hunter Biden information that came to the FBI before the 2020 election, was in charge of Tony Bobulinski's material. He was appointed by the FBI to manage Tony Bobulinski, who was probably the most crucial whistleblower when it came to the Hunter Biden material. Nothing to do with the laptop, but Tony Bobulinski had been the business partner of Hunter Biden, and he knew that Joe Biden was involved with this multi-million-dollar deal with China that was determined that was detrimental, to America's national interest. Tony Bobulinski, being a patriot, being a Navy veteran, much decorated, having top secret security clearances from the NSA and from the Department of Energy, he decided to stand up before the election. He gave a press conference a couple of weeks before the election, and he told what he knew. He said that the big guy was Joe Biden. This is all from Miranda Devine. She goes on to say he knew that because that was the way Hunter Biden and his business partners, including himself, Bobulinski, used to refer to Joe Biden, and they didn't want to mention him by name because he was central to the corrupt influence peddling program that the Bidens had been prosecuting throughout the world during Joe Biden's vice presidency, and Joe Biden was fully aware of it. He was involved in it, even though he lied to the American people, and I don't say that word lightly. There is just overwhelming evidence to show that Joe Biden lied when he said during the election campaign that he knew nothing about his son Hunter's overseas business dealings.
Yeah. Yeah.
More evidence.
Yeah. He's a liar. I'm not saying that Trump didn't speak in hyperbole. I'm not saying that Trump didn't over-exaggerate whenever he spoke, but Biden has the track record. He has the history. We have the audio. We have the tape. Roll it back. He is a liar.
Will anybody be held accountable for those lies? That's the question.
Yeah,
because we're not investigating
so.
Hunter. We're not investigating Joe. We're not investigating Hillary. We're not investigating, we're not James Comey. They're investigating Trump.
Yep.
Which, you know what? If you got something on Trump, go get it.
But that just doesn't seem like that's the smart objective right now.
Can we investigate some of these other people where there's a whole lot of smoke?
Yeah.
Probably fire.
Yeah, definitely fire.
Got one more segment to go. Schools. We talked at the beginning about this, about the government saying that you should get your COVID vaccine every year going forward now. And I said, that's the beginning of something. There's another beginning of something that I think is right around the corner involving our schools. I'll tell you about it when we get back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, everybody, this is Paul Kurtman, host of the Paul Kurtman Show on News Talk STL, but I'm also the president of PR Kurtman Investments. The market is down and inflation is up. So if you have questions about the investments in your portfolio, please let me help. Just send me an email by visiting freedomportfolios.com. There's no cost. The market might be uncertain, but that doesn't mean you should be too. Contact me today, Paul Kurtman, by visiting freedomportfolios.com.
Start a podcast for your business today with Epic STL Podcasts. Engage existing and potential customers, build trust in your brand, and drive traffic to your business. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
The news and talk that affects St. Louis.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent extremism.
Called half the country fascist.
We will forgive $10,000.
It's basically trying to buy votes.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
If you have been thinking about selling your home, thinking about moving, you need to act on that immediately because it looks like the market, a lot of things are changing. It's still a great time to sell your home. Just heard a success story from a very good friend of mine about a week ago who was blown away at how much they were able to get for their house and, just really happy with the success of selling their home. But that window could be closing. So you need to act now and call our friends at the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen Wallner worked with Christine and I, and we couldn't say enough positive things about working with the Wallners. They are simply the best. Don't let this opportunity end on you. Don't let the window close. If you're thinking about selling your house, you need to call the Wallner home selling team now. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner home selling team.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. 3 months after the Robb Elementary School massacre, a new school year has begun in Uvalde, Texas.
Students began arriving at Uvalde Elementary before dawn Tuesday, walking through newly installed 8-foot-high metal fencing that surrounds the campus and past a state trooper standing guard. Colorful flags hang in the hallways. Teachers wear turquoise shirts reading, "Together we rise and together we are better." State troopers parked on every corner outside the school. No youngsters return to Robb Elementary. That building is forever closed. Rich Thomason reporting.
In Memphis, Tennessee, the body of 34-year-old Eliza Fletcher, a school teacher and granddaughter of a prominent Memphis businessman, has been found. Cleotha Abston, who has a long arrest record, has been charged with first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. Also at townhall.com, the head of the Republican National Committee says President Biden is trying to divide America, and that appears to be backfiring on his own party. Correspondent Bob Agnew with that report.
RNC Chairperson Ronna McDaniel tells the Salem Radio Network the president's in trouble.
Democrats are fleeing Biden. His numbers are terrible.
She accuses President Biden of trying to buy votes with his student loan forgiveness plan, but argues even that appears to be backfiring.
What we've seen since then is Herschel Walker took a lead in a poll in Georgia. We've seen Laxalt within one, O'Day in Colorado within one.
McDaniel says the reason many parents oppose the president's plan is that their own children's education was damaged by the Democrats' insistence on closing schools during the pandemic. Bob Agnew reporting.
Stocks remain deep in the red now. The Dow is down 177 points. The NASDAQ closed off 85. More at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin travels to Maine this week to campaign for Republican gubernatorial candidate Paul LePage, a former governor seeking a third term.
Youngkin, who has been rumored as a potential 2024 presidential candidate, is traveling to several states this year to boost GOP candidates. The Washington Post reports that he will make a stop for a fundraiser in Lewiston, Maine on Wednesday. LePage served as Maine's governor from 2011 to 2019, but is allowed to seek a third term under state law after sitting out one term. LePage is taking on Democrat Governor Janet Mills in November in what is expected to be a highly competitive race. According to a May poll from Pan Atlantic Research, Mills is slightly leading LePage, 46% to 42%. Bernie Bennett reporting.
Canadian police continue hunting for the remaining suspect in the stabbing deaths of 10 people in Saskatchewan after finding the body of his brother amid a massive manhunt for the pair. Miles Sanderson remains on the loose. Breaking news at townhall.com. On the international front, Russian President Vladimir Putin attends sweeping war games involving troops from China and other nations in a show of force amid Moscow's tensions with the West.
A Russian commander says fire at will as President Vladimir Putin observes. It's a show of military muscle amid the tensions with the West over Moscow's action in Ukraine, and it's intended to showcase growing defense ties between Russia and China and also demonstrate that Moscow has enough troops and equipment to conduct the massive drills even while its troops are engaged in military action in Ukraine. China has refused to criticize Russia for sending troops into Ukraine, blaming the U.S. and NATO for provoking Moscow, and has blasted the punishing sanctions imposed on Russia. I'm Julie Walker.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Any chance for a brief sprinkle is very low and fades as the sun sets, so it'll be dry overnight. Maybe some patchy fog in the morning, low 66. And then a nice day, partly cloudy and a high of 83. Some near normal days coming our way the rest of the week, even Thursday, mostly sunny and a high of 83. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The news and talk that affects St. Louis.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent extremism.
Called half the country fascist.
We will forgive $10,000.
It's basically trying to buy votes.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
All Solutions Pest Control has been one of my favorite things that we have found since we moved into our new house. I am a big believer. My wife and I have always had pest control services at our homes because we just want to prevent things from being there. We don't want to wait until we have spiders or ants or mice or whatever it is before calling the pest control people. We want to keep all of that out of our home. And All Solutions Pest Control, since meeting them and starting to work with them a couple of months ago, they are exactly the kind of people that we love to work with. They don't cut corners. They treat you very well. They treat existing customers as well as they treat new customers. They don't sort of forget about you as some other companies will as you become a customer already and they're trying to find more people. They are with you all the way through, and they use the superior products. Like I said, they don't cut corners to try to save a few bucks, and that goes a long way in all the great services and keeping all of the bugs and pests away from your house and out of your yard. We have been thrilled with the mosquito treatment that we have received. It's given us our deck back. It's given us back the ability to work and play in the yard and grill and things like that in the evening and not have to get eaten up by mosquitoes. So whether it's mosquitoes or mice or spiders or ants or termites or whatever it is, if you have them or you just want to keep them out, All Solutions Pest Control are the folks to call. Learn more at allsolutionspestcontrol.com. Before we turn things over to Tim Jones and Chris Arp's show, if you missed anything from today's show or just want to make sure that you never miss anything from any of our shows, make sure you download the Colombo and Katie podcast. You can subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform, whatever it may be, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google. You can even get our podcast on our website, newstalkstl.com. Had a great conversation at the beginning of the show with the former mayor of Ferguson, James Knowles. We dug into the situation surrounding the St. Louis County executive race. Also, at the beginning of the show, we talked about the announcement made by the White House today that they are recommending, along with the CDC, so the White House COVID-19 task force, as well as the CDC, are recommending that Americans 12 and over, all Americans 12 and over, every year get your COVID-19 vaccine at the same time as you get your flu vaccine, your flu shot. The leader of the COVID-19 task force said, as we talked about earlier, Katie, that this is why God gave you two arms. This was what he said in the announcement. He was joking, but this is what he said. This is why God gave you two arms, one for the COVID shot and one for the flu shot. So the government and I said at the beginning of the show that I think this is the beginning. They wait until Labor Day is over with. It's now September, the unofficial end of summer, beginning of fall. So now we're into that fall, winter season, flu season, kids back to school season. And I think this is the beginning of vaccine announcements, mask announcements, recommendations, maybe mandates surrounding this whole thing. So
yeah,
brace yourself.
Yeah, I think that you're definitely right. I'm interested to know, well, because where you are, where you live now has been such a different world for the last 2.5 years in St. Peter, St. Charles.
Yeah.
I mean,
we got informed the other day that somebody close to Maggie in James's school, close to James, had come down with COVID, and we just got informed.
Yeah, it's so different. The protocol is so different.
We just got informed. Like, hey, you might want to keep an eye, watch him. Symptoms come up. He gets a fever. He starts coughing, whatever. Just keep your eyes open because somebody close to him tested positive. Like, well, that's a whole lot of common sense. That's not what I'm used to. I'm used to shut it down.
Yep, shut her down.
Stay home.
Well, right now, CBS reported that math and reading scores are at a record all-time low.
Have to be.
I think the tally was from elementary and middle, but math and reading are at an all-time low, and this was CBS reporting on this weekend. So there's a lot of people that are kind of looking back at these school lockdowns and these shutdowns and saying,
devastating. Devastating.
I mean, we can't take
I
that
saw it
back.
with my own eyes, with particularly with Maggie, because Grace was, a junior when it hit, and then a senior also. So she was at the tail end, of her.
And she got a lot of things taken away from her. Not the math and the reading.
No,
but
she lost a lot of cool opportunities.
Yes.
Like all the things that you do when you're a senior in high school,
fun
like
stuff.
prom, and she plays violin. She never got to be first chair violin, or anything like that. Like she would have been, had a lot of that taken away from her. But Maggie specifically, who was still in elementary school, she's in middle school now, was in elementary school then, you could see that she was not progressing. She was not learning anything over those months of just sitting at home. So we got into that in the first hour. Again, if you missed any of that, or you just, again, want to make sure that you never miss anything here, please download our podcast, subscribe to us. Easiest way to keep up with everything. We're on all the big podcast platforms. And also, you can now do our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel and watch us live, along with, you can also watch us on the News Talk STL Facebook page and the News Talk STL Rumble page, but now also Colombo and Katie on YouTube. And not only can you watch our daily show there, we are also going to be putting up a lot of other fun videos. I've got some fun ideas for the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel. So all of those great ways to keep up with everything here. Now, piggybacking off of that story about vaccines coming, and like how I made the prediction that this is the beginning of all these conversations. Here's another one. Another news story out today out of New York City. This is New York City public schools, but this is something that is being discussed in schools all over the country, I'm sure school districts in our area are considering it as well. Want to see what everybody thinks about this. New York City public schools, starting this year, have eliminated snow days and will do virtual learning on days that the school would be closed because of snow. New York City public schools will no longer announce snow days and will instead shift to remote learning days when there is severe weather. A statement out today says, quote, over the years, the DOE, the Department of Education, introduced additional holiday observances as part of the school calendar and has contractual obligations which limit the number of possible school days. The department said the pandemic has also created the ability to switch seamlessly to remote learning, and DOE Central and schools have distributed hundreds of thousands of devices to ensure that learning can continue remotely during school closures. So that is why they are making this decision. I thought it was interesting that they threw in the comment about how they've added a bunch of holidays to the calendar because kids have to go to a school a certain amount of days. Can't remember. I think it's like 180 or something. I could be completely making it up. That's the number that right now is for whatever reason in my head. But there's a certain amount of days that kids have to go to school, right? So they're saying basically that another one of the reasons, the pandemic, is one of the reasons because we learned how to do this. We learned how to do remote learning during the pandemic, but we've added all these other days off that we don't have room for school days anymore. I just thought that was an interesting qualification. Have you added that many holidays?
What is the need to switch up something like that?
So now that way they don't have to lose a school day. They don't have to add it to the end of the year. Don't have to go into the summer. They say the kids already have all the computers. We learned how to do it during the pandemic. So now instead of a snow day, if it snows or there's severe weather or whatever, kids will still have to go to school or learn that day. They'll just have to do it virtually.
I think that's ridiculous. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. First of all, to somehow say we need to balance the playing field of giving these kids all of these holidays off and then taking away their snow days because we still need to have those school days in order, I just think is BS. Why are we switching the system that has worked? And to me, getting kids back in school is the primary objective. Absolutely always the primary objective. But snow days were those special treats. Those were those special little moments, those treats that you get to have as a kid that are what is that? What is the term?
The word is magic.
It is magic, but it's like
magical.
It's not hardcore memory. It's something like core memories for a kid are built on the day that your mom wakes you up just to tell you saw the school's closed because and granted now and the other qualification to this is we've gotten very lax with the definition of snow day. I mean, we've gotten very lax with the definition of snow day. The pendulum has swung to if you see one flake, now there's a snow day. So I'm not down for that either.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
But New York, it's New York. I mean, heavy snow, heavy frigid weather. I just think that taking away something like that from a kid who doesn't have that is their world.
Can you imagine?
That is their world.
These kids, and like I said about the vaccine mandate, this is a New York City public school story now, but we've read stories about how this has been considered by schools across the country. This is going to be something that you are going to see everywhere. I'm sure eventually some schools in our area some districts are going to
do this.
I just feel like this is going to happen.
And will it work? Because if we're looking at virtual learning that we just did for 2 years and saying that didn't work, are you expecting a kid on a snow day to open up the laptop and be like, I guess I'm ready to learn?
Can you imagine
for 8 hours?
Never unknowing the feeling of a snow day?
No.
Your whole life, never knowing what that feels like.
I guess
if
you don't know it, then you can't miss it.
And then go now online and look it up and get or be asleep or get up in the morning and start to get ready and your parent comes in and says you can go back to bed
It's a snow day.
It's a snow day. Like,
calling up your friends to be like, who wants to go sledding up on the top of the big hill?
It's the greatest feeling in the world. So now,
fun.
I understand the argument for it, that why miss a day when we don't have to anymore? Here's my biggest fear, and you nailed it when you said the definition of a snow day has been stretched thin. I mean, like, we're taking days off on predictions now.
We are.
And not predictions of like 10 to 12 inches, like predictions of 1 to 3 inches. And then it never even happens, or maybe 1 inch.
And the kid still has off school.
And they still have off school. My fear is that I don't trust the schools to not just take advantage of this like crazy. Like, every time, now that if they do it and they get away with it, or they feel like it works or whatever, they're just going to do it like crazy.
Yes.
Every chance they get. Oh, it's supposed to snow? We'll just call a virtual day. Oh, it's supposed to be 95 degrees? We'll just call a virtual day.
Why did that
it's supposed to be a really bad
change?
thunderstorm? Oh, we'll just call a virtual day. And they're just going to do it. They're just going to abuse it.
Oh,
basically.
yeah, for sure.
If it gets put in, if we allow it to happen, I just feel like it's going to be abused.
I just don't understand when that change happened, where now it's like a whiff of one snowflake drops.
Nobody wants to get sued. Nobody wants to get sued. Parents will, because there are people out there that will try to claim anything that they can claim.
Golly, what a world.
Yeah. Do you have a story for us?
I do. A government-appointed council could increase wages for California's estimated 500,000 fast food workers as much as. Do you want to take a guess of what they could get paid an hour? Their minimum wage in California is $15.
So, but is this not the minimum wage? It's just for fast food workers?
This
or
is this is for fast food workers.
So they're basically creating like a fast food worker minimum wage.
Mm-hmm. And minimum wage in California
It's
is
already
$15.
$15.
So do you want to take a guess of what this could be an hour for fast food workers?
You're going to say something crazy like 25, but $20 is what I'm going to say.
22 an hour.
Oh my God.
Starting next year with under a new law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. The law, known as the Fast Recovery Act, will establish a first-in-the-nation state council tasked with setting minimum wage standards in California, for the entire industry, which relies heavily on the franchise business model, which labor advocates claim has long been plagued with wage theft and other worker abuses. So, in a statement, Mr. Newsom said the law will give fast food workers, specifically, a stronger voice in a seat at the table to set fair wages and critical health and safety standards across the industry. He says this: I'm proud on Labor Day to sign that bill and enshrine it into law. Restaurant groups and franchises lobbied aggressively against the bill. And in recent days have urged Mr. Newsom to veto it, saying it would cause widespread price increases.
It will.
And
fire, and it's going to get thousands of people fired.
Widespread price increases, without improving existing worker protocols. In a statement, the International Franchise Association, which lobbies on behalf of the restaurant chains such as McDonald's, Yum Brands, and a few others, accused Mr. Newsom of siding with special interests by signing a bill designed to hurt the franchise business model in California. This bill is a fork in the eye to franchise owners and customers at a time when it hurts the most, the statement said. Many restaurant operators said they wouldn't be able to afford hike wages so suddenly when California's current minimum wage is $15 an hour and is set to increase by 50 cents in January. $22 an hour.
All it's going to do is get people fired. It's going to get people fired because they're not going to, they can't afford to pay $22 an hour to every single employee. It's going to become more automated. Jobs are going to get eliminated. And I don't understand the focus on, and not just this story, like it's always, every time we talk about minimum wage, we talk about fast food workers, where like it's the only job out there available. There are so many jobs.
Christine
and I were just talking about this over the weekend. about, we had Brian Eggers on the show last week from Eggers HVAC talking about how desperate all the trades are: heating and air conditioning, plumbing, carpentry, electricians, how they are desperate for people they'll pay for you to go to school and then give you a $50,000, $60,000 a year job right out of school, guaranteed to start with. We've had it at our printing company. We've tried desperately to hire people for like decent jobs that you don't have to have like a bunch of experience in the industry.
Basic level jobs, entry level jobs,
but that have a future and have a skill that you learn, a skill that you learn that then makes you more valuable in that industry and pays more than minimum wage. Like you can make,
which is the way it's supposed to be.
Why are we always focused? Why is the conversation always about fast food workers and minimum wage jobs? And that's how we're going to fix everything. There's jobs available. There's lots
everywhere.
How do we get people back into the workforce and into the trades and into these other organizations? Every single small business owner I know, and I know a lot, has labor problems, has issues. They
finding it.
They have openings. Yes, finding it. They have jobs available, and in many places that have bright futures.
Well, this is enabling.
Pay well.
This is enabling people to, in my perspective, this feels like it's enabling people to be. We can settle for this. We can get paid well and settle for this. And we don't have to move forward. We don't have to learn any new skills. We can stay stationary.
You're basically
and
telling
that's what
them
we can do.
This is all they can do.
Yeah, that is.
This is all you can do.
I agree.
Instead of telling people about these
you can do
all
so
of
much
these
more.
other jobs. I mean, truck drivers are getting, like, you see the shortage of truck drivers and how well that pays.
And we're talking about,
it's just across the board.
We're talking about 16 and 17 and 18-year-old kids getting paid $22 an hour.
And they're just going to lose. It's going to be more jobs lost, less kids working, because some politician wants to check a box and pretend like they're somebody's superhero. Speaking of real superheroes, Tim Jones and Chris Arps are coming in next to take you through the rest of your Tuesday afternoon. Colombo and Katie back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Download the podcast if you missed anything. Don't forget to subscribe to us on the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel. And don't go anywhere. Tim and Chris in next at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Like Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Colombo and Katie.